So, um, you think you want to be married. Well, if you want to be married in a committed relationship, um, whether it's with a human being or with your pet, every relationship has conflict. Every relationship, has some difficulties. But I want you to understand that when it comes down to it, because we are married, we were talking about real marriage situations, that healthy marriages do not avoid the conflict. They learn, they know, and they grow through how to navigate through it. We'll talk about it right after this.
Let's talk about love and marriage the way that God intended. Life experience, here we share it. The Love Fruit Podcast. Tune in from any platform. Podcast. Will help your spirit transform.
What's going on, Kyle?
Hey, what's going on, baby?
I'm all right. So, as y'all hear, we're going to talk about conflict today. And with that, I think conflict reveals some things that are really, really important for us, things that we need to deal with. And a lot of times we don't understand what's the most important thing or things that needs to be handled in the moment. Sometimes we get caught up in, hey, you know what? This particular conflict is that our lights have been turned off, right? But what happens? What is the real dilemma in that conflict, and what happens in that moment of marriage, or a relationship or whatever it is, roommates, whatever the situation might be? Why are the lights really off? So here is what I think the priorities that need to be handled in that moment of conflict. So if the lights have been turned off, one, Kafi, why the lights off? Maurice, I don't know why the lights off. Kafi, what happens when you flip that switch over there? And you're like, hey, no, the lights are really off. Were the lights off on the block? Are the lights off at the stoplight at the top of the block? Can you are the neighbors' house lights still on and off? All right, Kafa. So why are the lights off?
Right.
How come we don't have any electricity? So, and we've just been through this recently. Now, the reality is that in that particular moment, the priority was understanding that we were the only house on the block that had no lights on. And the priority was to find out what was the issue. So we thought we needed to contact our local electric company. And they were, when you go in the app, they said, everything's fine. But it wasn't fine in my house. And so what we finally found out was, after, because I had to run out to do something, so I left Kafa and Maurice in the house. And so Kafa decided, she's like, Maurice, is there a breaker off? I said, Kafa, there's no breakers off, but here's the reality. What happened is that the main breaker to the house had tripped. And so, which is really scary. That's really weird. But we had to now backtrack and understand what would have tripped the house. And so we found out that our brand new air fryer, convection oven, microwave combo thing is so powerful that it would shut the house down. Not just one breaker, but the house. The house went out. The house quit. The house quit on us.
Oh, goodness.
But the other factor was sometimes we don't really understand, because I'm not a licensed electrician, is that just because this one outlet that's upstairs in the kitchen is connected to this, and you think everything is good, you don't realize that because you have a space heater downstairs in the basement on, that they're not connected on the same breaker, and you're like, oh snap, yeah, the house quit. Now, here is what I'm getting at in this moment, because I'm pretty sure y'all talking about, y'all electricity, y'all not paying a bill. No, I could have gone that way, but that would have been too easy. That would have been, y'all would have understood that, right? But in this situation of, it's still the same responsibilities. Communication.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, if our son, who I think he had a pizza in that contraption that made the house quit, but at the same time, Kafa was in the basement with the heater on. So when these two individuals are talking, being these two appliances, and said we don't work well together, because their communication was like, look, you either going to turn off, or I'm going to turn off, or we're going to shut this whole thing down. And they did, right? Because they didn't like each other. And so, but the other part of that is that not understanding really what was the cause one way or another. And sometimes we don't understand what is connected and what's not connected, and why these things happen in our marriages. And so, because you sometimes can feel like one thing is not connected to another. It can feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have the right type of communication, it can feel like y'all are butting up against each other, and then y'all shut the whole house down. Now the whole house is not happy.
Right.
The whole, the kids aren't happy. The cats and the dogs ain't happy. The fish want to bust out the fish tank because they ain't happy. Trust me, we've had that situation as well. So the reality is, and that's a literal thing. We could talk about it in another episode, but yeah, our first fish tank had busted, and we had, 30, 40, 50 gallons of water just rushing through the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had that. So, and then a fish all flapping all happily on the floor. That was an interesting situation. So.
That you can laugh about now. But
right.
It wasn't.
It wasn't technically funny at that time.
Yes.
But the reality is that communication is key in understanding what is connecting to what. So now you understand that, hey, the priority is we need to talk. We need to understand how one thing connects to the other, flow, or whatever it is. What's on this one breaker, and this breaker can really hold it, or is it going to shut everything down? And I understand that was a long, really, really long analogy, but I think that's something that we all need to understand, that sometimes, even though things don't look like they're connected, that they really are.
Yeah. And sometimes in our relationships, we don't feel connected.
Right.
But we really, really are.
Right.
And sometimes that connection is broken because of the lack of communication.
Mm-hmm.
Because of, and then the lack of communication leads to avoidance.
Right.
And we've been there where we've avoided each other. I'm upstairs in the living room and watching TV, and you're downstairs in the family room watching TV. We could be looking at the same dang show.
Which we have.
And just avoiding each other.
Mm-hmm.
Or looking at different shows, and you're kikiing and laughing, and I wonder what he's watching. But I ain't going down there to find out what it is, because we're avoiding each other, avoiding potential additional conflict.
Right.
Avoiding conversations, avoiding the communication.
Right.
Because we're nervous or anxious about it becoming worse. And sometimes that creates more resentment towards each other. At least it did for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Especially when you was downstairs laughing.
Right.
I was just like hot. Like, what? Ain't nothing that funny.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because then you come upstairs and you all, what you doing? What, just, I'm like, well, you was just laughing.
Right.
Why you got to be serious now? But I didn't communicate that.
Right.
So you want to be mean? I'm going to be short and mean too. I'm already short, but I could be short and mean.
I told you you're mean.
I can be. And I agreed with you with that. Thank you all so very much. But, with all of that, you took me off track of what I was saying.
I'm sorry.
I was so focused.
I got you.
And now the focus is gone. There's conflict here, Maurice.
Yes, it is.
Get our priorities straight. We're doing a show.
Yes, we are.
So with all that, like I said, sometimes there's changes and whatnot within the relationship, and with that can build some of the avoidance. And the avoidance can lead to resentment and create more issues and more conflict. It just becomes a vicious cycle.
Right.
And we have to find a way to break it.
Right.
And sometimes, at least for us, I think what helped through all of that, one, as I said, Maurice always was good with looking at the man in the mirror. That's his catchphrase, I think, by now. Where he stops to do that. And he didn't do it early on. It was certainly something that came up with a certain season in his life where he started to do that. But with him doing that, all kudos to him for realizing, like, hey, I'm not doing everything in life the right way. And he started to make change, and then he let me know. He communicated with me, hey, like, Kaf, I'm trying to change this. This is not what I wanted my life to be like. And he created those changes and then say, to me, are you changing too? So I had that challenge from him in our relationship of, how can I change? So we would that started some communication with us of, well, how should I change? What changes do you think need to happen? And I would try things and then fail because they weren't necessarily my changes. They weren't my why.
Right.
And I think, one of the other things that helped was the Well Why Not workbook that you put together that helped you. I think it kind of gave back to everybody what you were going through.
Right.
Of understanding your why in life, understanding your why in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that, those that are listening, if you're interested in getting it, here's a little bit more information about it.
Are you ready to turn your why nots into bold moves? The Well Why Not workbook is here to guide you. Designed for dreamers, doers, and those ready to make a 1-degree shift toward their purpose. Packed with thought-provoking exercises, practical steps, and inspirational insights, this isn't just a workbook, it's your roadmap to a more focused, fulfilling life. Ready to start your journey? Visit mauricechisholm.com today and say, well, why not? The Well Why Not workbook, because your next step starts now.
Yeah, and your next step in your relationship really truly starts now. And, I want to challenge all of our listeners to think about, their why in their relationship. Like, why are you married? What brought you together? And sometimes that can help you through your conflicts. One of our elders said when we got married, like, hey, if you have an argument, if you have a conflict, then go to your room together and strip yourselves bare to your birthday suit, and then see if you still have that conflict. See if that's still there. Can you still, argue each other down with presenting yourself naked and unashamed? And it wasn't just our elder. Even in a recent wedding that we had gone to maybe 4 or 5 years ago, at the wedding reception, when everybody passes the microphone around, somebody also said that to the newlyweds, like, hey, not only don't go to bed angry, but they also said the same advice of going to your room, strip down, and that will help to eliminate some of the conflict and some of the argument. But I say beyond all of that, figure out your why. What's brought you both together? What is your goal and your mission in life, in this world? What do you have to give back? And that helps to change some things. It helps to get you back on the right page. It gets you back on the right track together, because I think then you have something bigger that you're focusing on. It's not, hey, well, why didn't you put the toilet seat down, and why didn't you flip the breaker?
And so let's talk about that breaker situation.
Mm-hmm.
Kafa asked about the breaker. And so here's the thing. You have one thing in mind, right? And which is the smaller breaker.
Mm-hmm.
You would not consider necessarily the big house breaker to be tripped. And so sometimes we don't understand the severity of the situation. You think it's something minor, but it's really something major.
Mm-hmm.
And so that level of communication is key. Now, Kafa took her time and found that it was the whole house breaker. So she called and she said, Maurice, it was the house, and I flipped it. All right, Kaf, I appreciate you, but here's what happened. Because I did not follow through all the way of looking at the house breaker, because I knew that there was something else on my plate as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so and let's be honest, in a team environment, which where we are now, Kafa felt okay with going to do that, sharing it with me, and I'm appreciative that she did it, right? Where in the past, if she would have done something like that, going behind me, I want y'all to hear what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
She's going behind me, and she found the issue or situation, and that's my position. I should have done that or whatever it is. But I'm now, because she done it, now I'm frustrated or whatever it is. Well, guess what? Now we're more worried about winning the situation than repairing the situation. Because we try to repair, our level of communication or whatever it is. We're trying to repair what's broken in the house. Instead, we want to worry about winning, whatever else is going on. So I think we have to understand that in these moments of conflict, and I don't care what the situation is, iron sharpens iron.
Mm-hmm.
And just because male, female, cat, dog, bird, mouse, when those situations that seem so opposite, that doesn't mean that one can't help the other.
Right.
Right? And that no matter, even if we have a varying idea of ideologies or whatever, whatever the situations might be, you can still learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned that even though I was going off to assist a family member in that moment, Kafa will still do what she needs to do to assist me in in those moments like that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I did look, right? Even though I did take my time, but she still had the wherewithal, like, you know what? I live in this house too. So I'm going to take care of it. I'm not going to sit around and wait. I'm going to, because I did call the electric company or whatever it is, are we going to sit around and wait for them? Or is there a situation that I'm going to see what what else is going on? At least I can give, I'm coming from a Kafa perspective in this situation, because this is the way I would consider I would give as much information as I can when they come out there.
Right.
Because the reality is that if they come out there and flip this switch, I'm going to feel like a ding-dong, right? In all honesty. And so understanding that it's a team situation, right, and not individualized.
Yeah. And like you said, you're not trying to win. I think, when conflicts come and arguments come, you for those that are trying to win the argument,
right?
What is winning?
Right.
You know what I mean? What's a win in that sport of marriage is when you win together.
Right.
It's a team sport, as Maurice is saying. It's not like me versus him, or sometimes even we would look at things and say, oh, it's us against the world. Well, no, we don't have to be against the world either.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, so again, what is winning in all of these things? Really, it's all about just repairing things, as Maurice was saying, and just moving from day to day.
Right.
Conflict will happen. Things do come up. But it's the unresolved conflict that quietly erodes your connection that you have with your spouse. It erodes your trust. It will eat away at things slowly.
Right.
So you have to kind of talk about things and resolve some of those conflicts, but make sure you don't do it negatively. It's a way to do it with love. And that's what we're talking about, just building your relationship through love. And there's a way to do all of that.
Most definitely. So if y'all can, do us a favor once again. Leave us a review. And if this episode has really challenged how you handle conflict, I would like for you to take the time and to address one resolved issue calmly and intentionally this coming week, if you really can. Like, really put forth a lot of effort. Really, really, really. And, you could do it as an individual, or you could do it as a team. One way or another, do your best to resolve it. And that's all I got to say, Kaf.
That's all I got to say.
All right, y'all. We'll talk to y'all a little later. Peace.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the No Fruit Podcast, where we bring you fruitful conversations, ripened wisdom, and love that's deeply rooted. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who could use a little inspiration in their day. Until next time, stay rooted in love, and remember, every seed you plant today shapes the fruit of tomorrow.